really happening as far as the science and communities are concerned. And so during some of my work with people, I have come to realize that there are certain myths that have been in existence, and this affects the wildlife, especially as far as human is involved. So I have just brought out some of those things to share with you. Some of them you will or may possibly know them, but I'm sure some of the ones I'm going to be talking about might be strange to you. So enjoy the moment. I just had to take this from the Cambridge Dictionary to just explain or find what a myth is. Some of the myths we have today are basically derived from traditional stories, especially those ones that are of cultural or have historical background from different culture and people, and sometimes even the religion. And some of these things, we have so made them supernatural in such a way that they have become beliefs that people keep or people share as far as other generations and people are concerned. So now, I don't know how true these are, but at the end, I'm sure we'll get to know if truly they are true or not. You may have heard that the feet of millipedes causes irritation. You may not have experienced this, but I'm sure at the end you will find out. Now, are you aware that there are cultures that believes that bugs are bad luck? I came across this particular culture called the Panso. They are in Nigerian border and as well as Cameroon. And I got talking with somebody who told me, no, I don't need to interact with the bug, which I saw, and I was trying to get a photo. And I wondered why, and that inspired me to ask some few questions. It was there, I was told that if you touch a bug, it's going to bring you bad luck. And that was amazing for me to have learned about that. You may have heard again that snails or salivas from snails causes ringworm. I've been told this even in my own culture. I am Bagi by tribe, and I remember some few years ago when I was younger than this, my grandma would tell me, no, don't allow the snail to touch you, because if it touches you, you're going to get ringworm. And I was very scared to touch snails. And that lived on with me. And I went on to even tell other children whom may want to play with one that snakes are demonic. Nobody really wants snakes, except for few who have gone to study snakes. But majority of us are having this phobia for snakes. I know even in Christianity, there is a part of the scripture that talks about enmity between man and snakes. And of course, that has lived on from generation to generation. And a lot of times, snakes face a lot of persecutions because of these beliefs. Now, are snakes truly demonic? Is it true or it's just a myth? Well, I'm sure we'll find out this, like I said earlier on. You know about the owls or owls. A lot of people believe that witches and wizards uses them uh, as an instrument to do their things. Well, I'm not sure if these have been proved scientifically, but I still stand to be corrected that it is not true. But again, this is driven by a lot of cultural and religious belief. So you may have seen some saliva on grasses for those of us who are bush people, or for those who are farmers. You go to things that looks like saliva. And I remember while I was growing up, I was told that those salivas were from snakes. But from the photo you see here, not long I came to find out, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I came to realize that they were actually not saliva from bugs. And I learned that this bugs, and they uses that as a means of hunting, and as well as use it to protect themselves from dryness. But so many people will believe that these are salivas from snake, and these have also gone ahead to shape how we think and how we look at the wildlife generally. But again, there is another thing I have come across during my work with a community in Taraba. Uh, they will tell you when a moth or butterfly perches on you, it means you are blessed, or you're going to be blessed, or it brings blessings. And so many people will look forward to having a butterfly to perch on them. I have tried to see if there is anything, I mean, if I can prove that. But at some point in time, I just realized that these are just coincidence that happens. Some of this might be true, might not be true. They might be myth, they might not be myth. But let's see. What drives our beliefs generally when it comes to what we think about the wildlife, especially those crawling or flying wildlife? Our culture have certain norms that drives what we believe in, same as the religion. And all of these, when put together, they derive our perceptions in which we look at things generally. And some of these things have led to uh, wildlife facing a lot of persecution, most especially like the owls. You would see people hunting them down, or some people would even make prayers because they think they have been used or they were sent by somebody to cause trouble or harm and all of that. So it's relatively not our fault that we have this myth or these beliefs about certain species of animals or about certain wildlife. But there is something we need to understand about wildlife. And I think that is where some of us come in as community scientists, where we would have to bring out the truth. We will have to tell the people the truth, especially those who are not learned or who are not inclined with the wildlife, so that we can coexist if possible, so that the wildlife, like the flying or crawling animals or wildlife, will not face those persecutions that are happening today. You will agree with me that some of the extinction, when it comes to some wildlife species, some of them are as a result of that have been passed on by parents and through generations. Now, let's not forget again that certain allergies and phobias have contributed in some of the beliefs or created some myth about wildlife generally. We know some people react to certain food, certain spices, fragrance and scents, and even dust. Again, I am aware that there are some of us, or some people are having certain fears for crawling insects, like caterpillars, or even worms, or even snakes. Some people would be very scared if they are to see any of those animals, and as well as certain insects. You would agree with me that some people will not want to see scorpion, and as soon as they sight it, you would see their body reacting or having goose pimples. Some people are scared of heights. Some people are scared of water. Some people are scared of snakes. Some are birds, and all of this contributes to the beliefs or even the myth. So, but again, I would want to say here that there are few things we need to know. Sometimes when I meet with people who are not scientists or who are not conservationists or who are not science oriented, and I will have to tell them about wildlife generally or clear some doubts about some of the myths they have or believe in, I will tell them some natural phenomenal happens and they coincide with wildlife's behavior. Take for instance, you have a dove who comes around to make call at certain times. And maybe there was an event that happened at that particular point in time. It is possible that some cultures will hold on to that and create myths and just hold on to it and pass it on to generations to generations will continue to carry it. Now, this explains some of the scientific scenarios. Like I said, there are some biorhythms that happen that are related with wildlife, and this we can argue it. That bird calling at certain times, like I earlier mentioned, or making alarm calls, or even, let's say, the owls or bats that might make some echolocations to find their food. Some of these things happen coincidentally with time when human is present. So I think we as scientists need to do more when it comes to explaining this phenomena to people who are not science oriented, so that the wildlife itself cannot face or will not face some of the persecution they have today. Now, I have an example here, like the hunting guide that leads a hunter to a beehive. Now, there was this scenario I had some weeks ago while we were out in the field. We had this greater honey guide that was hovering around us. And I remember one of the rangers saying, let me say it in Hausa, like if you were sent, go and tell them you have not seen us. Now, it's not his fault. My interaction with him revealed that it is believed that when you have a bird following you and making calls, be rest assured that evil or something bad will happen. And I said, no, this is honey guide. And carefully, if we follow this honey guide, it will lead us to where there is beehive. And we had to try it. We followed this honey guide, and it took us to exactly a dead tree that had bees in it. And I said, all it wants us to do is to harvest and give him some, and that is all. Not really like somebody have sent the bird with bad luck. Now, these are some of the things that we have as beliefs or myth. Birds and butterfly, like I said, migrate with season, and some of these coincide with human activities. So when this migration is happening, we all know that it comes with a lot of explanation when it has to do with seasonality. Like stock, we know that some of them, when they fly, they move with the rains. So the people know that when you see stock, maybe the rains is here. Same thing with certain butterflies, with certain insects, and so many more. Now, nocturnal behaviors of some animals, such as owls, civets, and nigers, it's evolutionary thing that that happen with nature. Some of these wildlife are adapted for what they are, and so they do well in such times. I won't be surprised if some of us who are scientists or even conservationists still have doubts about certain animals. So, but again, it's still our responsibility to make these things clear that some of these behaviors that are related to nocturnal animals are just what they are. They were created to be nocturnal, or even some of them have adopted the nighttime because of some limitations or because of some predatory uh, behavior from other predators and so many other things. So they have adapted to those kind of times for survival. So now, what is true and what is a myth? Owls or owls are evil. Is it true or it's a myth? For me, I would say it's false. Owls are not evil. It is also not true that owls are used by witches and wizards. I don't believe in it. I used to believe in it while I was growing up. But over time, knowing and learning about birds, especially the nocturnal birds, I have come to know that that belief that I was told about nocturnal birds is just a myth. Bird calls are warning signs. Yes, I agree with this because sometimes I have had this experience with common boo-boo, and fortunately it is calling now. When a common boo-boo call, I would always look out for raptors, or there is this alarm call it we usually have when there are two. On so many occasions, whenever I hear that call and follow through that path, I would always see a snake. So I have sometimes used those calls to tell myself, hey, be careful. There's likely to be a snake somewhere. And that has really helped me when I'm in the wild. So, but again, snakes are demonic. No, it's not true. I have asked this question that if snakes were not important for those who are Christians, you would agree with me that there was a time that God had to destroy the earth. So what happened when that flood happened? If the snakes were also rescued or were also in the ship of Noah, it means they are important. And so God let them live. So I don't believe that snakes are demonic. So believing that, with the saying that snakes are demonic is just a myth. Box brings bad luck. It's also false. That is just a myth. For the one I shared earlier on that first photo you saw, that snakes spit saliva on grasses is still a myth. It's not true. The the saliva you see on grasses are just excretions from bugs, and they do that to keep themselves from dehydration or from dryness or drought, and as well as use it for hunting flying insects. Millipede causes irritation, yes. Like I mentioned in one of the slides that some of us or some people are allergic to some certain pheromones, and it's possible that we will react to it. I have learned that millipede exude some pheromone, which it uses as a form of adaptation to repel predators. And I've also read in some articles that primates uses them as mosquito repellent. So for humans, some of human will react to millipede when they come in contact with it. So it's possible, it is true that uh, the contact with a millipede can causes irritation. Now, I want us to know this, that some animals are vectors of parasite. This is true. And some of these, if we come in contact with them, we might likely take or be infected by certain diseases that might become complicated to human physiology. So we need to know and we need to be careful, especially for those things we're not sure about, or for those other animals or wildlife that have, some studies have been done on them and they have been confirmed to carry parasites. So I'm sure with this, you would know that certain things are just myth about some flying and crawling wildlife. I have planned that this was not going to be a long talk, but maybe we can share in case there are other myths you know. Yeah, I will really be glad if you have any other thing that you have been told while you were growing up, so that we can all have this and then see how we can build the conservation and help save the wildlife generally. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elisha, for this short and interesting talk. Yeah, and before I say anything, right now is a time for any other person on the call. If you have addition or you have a question to ask Mr. Elisha, please you can go ahead and do it right now. I can see that Longi, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I greet you all. Well done, Elisha. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Just I don't have questions. I just have some contributions and observations here and there. So maybe I would begin with so you mentioned about greater honey guide leading to hive.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think we need to be putting our stories together and try to put it out there because I think the scientific records are that it's only the Star Honey Guide that actually leads people to hive, and if you like tell the story, they would have a lot of questions to ask about it. So if you are certain that it was the Greater Honey Guide, then I think this story needs to kind of like go out. But you can as well check. You can as well
Yeah.
check to see if there are records for Greater
I had
Honey
to get
Guide
a
leading
photo
people to hide.
of
Yeah, you know,
Greater
check
Honey Guide.
that. You have a picture, yeah? You have a picture of the
Well, I
bird
have,
before.
yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm just observing that, and maybe we can do all of those discussions later. Um, and also for this one's about whether birds are witches, and then the part where you mentioned that it's not true. For me, I've learned to be very careful in communicating with locals, especially when it comes to things like this. I think we have been involved in a situation where we had to talk about this, and they felt they actually have cogent reasons to say that somebody was turning into a bird. So where I try to like draw the line, okay, I won't argue with you. If a human is turning into a bird, then I shouldn't have a problem with a bird. I have a problem with a human who is turning into a bird. I don't know if you understand what I mean now.
Yeah.
So I will not drag with you because when you're trying to it's like when you're preaching to someone and then you are arguing with them that what they're saying is not true. There's a way you would get some resistance. So first of all, I will not drag you with you, but look at it. It's logical. You said it's a human who is turning into a bird. So why are you having a problem with the bird? You shouldn't have a problem with the bird. Um, then about uh like snakes, it's very difficult to tell people to accept snakes. And uh what I try to Earth is connected to everything else. And and every species or every organism has a role that it plays in the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is only going to survive if every unit and subunit are conserved. Now, for example, we have been able to try to understand that by the daily lives of snakes, they are made up to feed on rats, for example. And we need the
Yeah.
snakes to control the population of the rats. We have had the problems with Lassa fever, and we know that all of us we can't go out there to kill all the rats out there. And if we have the snakes, they are also helping us, which is them even playing the roles of environmental managers or public health. If we
Yeah.
sell our stories like this, I'm sure it will be. They would sit down and be like, oh yeah, that's true, that's true. And then also I want to just mention about the myth. One myth which, okay, let me not call it a myth because I have the story is recent and is becoming so much publicized. I don't know if it's just me that is seeing it, and that is about the wall geckos. Um, so they now said that wall gecko is the most dangerous. That's what they even the way they say it. That is the most dangerous animal. Now that when you fall into food like soup, that it has happened, and nobody is mentioning where it has happened. I have asked severally, tell me where did this thing happen? They said a family of soup ate soup that wall gecko fell in, and all of them were wiped out. So this is something. So I at first I tried to like I didn't accept the story. This was last year, but recently it's coming very thick and strong again, and it's the same story. But the person who posted this one and they're sharing it around on Facebook. They said recently, and I saw this story last year, and they said recently a family of six was wiped out. I don't know. I want to hear if some people know also about the story and what you think about it. For me, I am interested in investigating um, how wall geckos can be that dangerous. But I know that wall geckos don't have poison glands. At best, maybe they carry some virus, some parasite, but I don't think so. I think we grew up with wall geckos in the house, and they lick things in the house that we must probably have used them, maybe spoon, maybe your toothbrush and stuff like that. We didn't die, but this story is becoming very. I will just stop here. Thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you very much, Longji. Yeah. Let me just respond to some of the things you have said concerning that of guide, I think one of the things that first drew our attention was the call, and then the hovering around and all of that. I mean, I went on to get the photos, and good, I had a field guys to check. And that was something amazing to have actually had that experience. That was my first encounter to have followed a bird to that point. And then concerning the other part of the wall gecko, just recently, while we're talking about it in the office, one of the wall gecko just passed, and the same thing was brought about, that wall gecko as one of the most deadly animals. And until now, I don't think I have any other, I mean, I don't have any evidence to prove that they are. For now, I still told them that those are just speculations. And some of these things they claim, for me, I would say would have been some coincidence. And maybe somebody is looking for somebody to blame. And the best person to blame is the closest thing around. And that is something I think I have realized with human. But since we're all
Cannot talk for
scientists, we
itself.
can get. Yeah.
Hey,
All right.
thank you so much, Mr. Longi, for the observation and the addition. And thank you, Mr. Elisha, for the follow-up. Do we have any other or more observations or question to ask? Okay, Mr. John, please, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you very much, Elisha, for that very interesting presentation. So, talking about myths, our belief, and all of that, especially in Africa, where how we act or how we behave is largely shaped by either religion, culture, or our environment, basically. It's very important to know how to deal with, especially local people, when we talk about conservation and all of that, because their idea or belief have been shaped over time. And it's just like, two sides of the same coin. On one hand, you have some species that benefit from some of this belief, while on the other hand, you have some species that are either persecuted, because of, that same belief or other beliefs that they have. And working with community people, we have been told, which I think it's true, that if you don't take their belief, their opinion, their culture, seriously, then whatever conservation intervention that you are implementing might just be counterproductive. So while working with community people, with local people, we have to also see how we can take that their belief, that their culture, and use it to benefit wildlife or use it to benefit biodiversity. So, like I said, it is a very good topic. Even some of us that are enlightened, there are some things we do that, when you take a step back and think about it, you just discover that there is no scientific basis for some of those things. For example, I stayed, I spent like 2 or 3 days in a very renowned professor's house in the western part of Nigeria. And personally, I'm used to, whenever I use the toilet, there is this WC, I just open the cover, the lid, just for, ventilation and all of that. So when the professor noticed that on 2 or 3 occasions, he warned me that I should always close the toilet after using it. And I was curious to know why. And he said snakes used to come out from toilets, and that just reminded me sometimes back where it was all over social media that snakes go through your sockaway and all of that and get into the toilet and maybe can bite you when you're using the toilet and all of that. So when I asked him, he actually said yes, that one of his senior colleagues sent him one of those pictures and videos and all of that. And interestingly, that shaped the way he started to, behave even in his house. So it is very interesting that, we behave sometimes unconsciously to some of these beliefs. But I think, like Elisha said, some of these things are not true. And you can't just dispel them outrightly. And at times, when you talk about, some of, just talking about the example Longji gave, where talking about Lassa fever and rats, at times you even unconsciously, you create some of this belief in these local communities. So we have to be careful how we either dispel these myths or how we bring, scientific back into whatever we see in nature to, benefit conservation. So bringing about maybe Lassa fever might also bring about persecution for the rats. We also need the rats, even though, yes, they cause some harm, but they also are part of nature and create that balance that we so desire in nature. So we can't write them off because of, whatever diseases or whatever is associated to them. And it's the same thing for bats and talking about COVID-19 and all of that. Even though diseases, some things we see that are negative to humans, have been associated with wildlife, we can't just write them off, right? So we as conservationists have to come up with, especially we in Africa, because we don't tell our stories most of the time, and it makes it a bit difficult to work with locals or local communities to see how we can push conservation to them or conservation message so that they own it. Because again, local communities, interestingly, over the years, have had a way of conserving their own natural resources. The conservation idea didn't just come with civilization. No, I've gone to communities where over the years, they don't fish in some rivers. And when you go there, you see fishes all over the place. So they have somehow this belief, about conservation. But again, some particular species, fall victim to some of their belief as well. So we just have to come up with some of these stories so that we can walk around it, find a way to use it, to positively affect biodiversity. And I think that is a task that we have for conservationists. And it begins with, conversations like this. And that is why I so much appreciate Elisha for coming up with this topic. Thank you very much.